extremely fun. It's Sunrise with Craig Froelich right here on KCMX AM 880. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes. We want to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or go to KCMXAM.com. Join in the conversation by calling 541-772-8255. Sunrise, where it matters what you think.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. 7 minutes after the hour. Glad you are with us this morning. It's the Sunrise Show right here in KCMX. 50 degrees outside. It's going to be 67 today. And, this is one of those days we can get out and really get some work done, as long as the rain doesn't mess things up. Looks like it. Well, we'll just see. We'll just see what happens. You just never know in Oregon. But how we'll stick to this. I will take every drop of rain I can get my hands on. Well, I want to welcome in Nick Card into the studio. He's one of our younger generations. I'm glad to see him. I saw him at the Republican Central Committee meeting, and he decided to run for Oregon State Representative District 5, and he, of course, did not make it onto the ballot. And I wanted to have him in this morning, part of our debate series going on this week, the season of voting. So all of you voters, listen in on the Republican ticket. And Nick, thanks for coming in this morning.
Well, hi, Craig. Thanks for having me here. I really appreciate it.
This is great.
Yeah, it's a fun adventure for me, too. This is, a very new and exciting thing. I've never done politics before.
Right.
But this is something I definitely see needs to be done. My big thing is jobs and jobs advocacy. And that's sort of why I came back.
I mean, you grew up here,
yes,
born and raised here, and then
definitely.
You went off to school, and you were in engineering. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was born and raised here. I grew up in Jacksonville, actually. So definitely this is my home. And I graduated South Medford High School as valedictorian, and then I went down to Harvey Mudd College in the LA area where I studied engineering. And so that was really where my political journey started, because once I graduated, I couldn't come home because there weren't any jobs here to come home to.
And Nick, I've been watching this for years. I've been in the Valley since '84, and it always bothered me to see our young people, our sharp young people, out of high school, chasing their dreams, and then verbalize to me, Craig, I've got to go to the big city. I can't find what I want here. And they would have a career path and, any number of different things, excelling in their career path. And they had made a go of it, and they said, Craig, I can't make it here. I'm moving, or we've already procured. And I just go, really? And they go, yeah. And I said, it's been disturbing me for a number of years.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'm the only one of all of my friends from high school that's still here in the Valley. And that's really sad to me. And it's the same story again and again. They want to be here, but they can't because there's no jobs. And they can't afford to live here and raise a family here because they can't work here.
Right, and you can't fight over a minimum wage. I mean, $10 an hour. And some of them, the folks, they're pushing nowadays to $15 an hour. I don't know how you could make it on that.
Yeah, it's not the minimum wage, and that's part of the problem we've had too in Oregon is our job with the jobs that we've lost, we're not getting back those same jobs.
Right.
We're getting back minimum wage jobs, and we're not growing in high-tech jobs. I lived in Silicon Valley for a number of years where I worked writing patents, and so I was deep in the middle of high-tech work, and I can see the kind of jobs and the kind of talent that those industries create. And we don't have that here.
Wow.
And I think we really need to bring that here. I mean, Bramo Motorcycles, a great example of a high-tech manufacturer that's creating great jobs here in the Valley. So where's more of them? We need 1,000 Bramo motorcycles here because they're the kind of jobs we want. They're the jobs we need. And we just, we look at the unemployment rate in our area. And what we forget is all of those kids that aren't here but want to be here. They're just as unemployed in Oregon as the people who live here are.
We just had Commissioner Doug Bridenthal on yesterday. We had Nikki Jones from Express Employment Professionals. We were talking about that exact thing, the unemployment rate. And Commissioner Bridenbaugh was saying, well, the unemployment rate, if you look a year ago, it's actually gone up a little bit. But here's the thing, let's look at the employment rate, because that way you don't have to, suppose who is not even on that percentage of hasn't, either they're underemployed or they're not looking for jobs anymore or they're purely retired or moved away or anything like that. So
Oh, yeah.
it's nuts. Well, so here's the thing, you're not on the ballot this
Yes, that's right.
election cycle in the primary election, but you want to get put on as a write-in candidate, and we were talking about that. To be a write-in candidate, they have the blank, and just write in, and all it needs is one vote. But then the next thing, of course, is you want as many votes as you possibly can get your hands on.
Oh, definitely. This is, the write-in journey started for me when I came back in October. That's when I moved back to the Valley. I had the opportunity to go work for my family's trucking company, which was great because it finally brought me back home.
Right.
But October was not early enough to get put on the primary ballot. So what I'm asking everyone out there is, on the Republican side, to write in Nick Card on the primary ballot for state representative. Make sure you fill in the bubble, and on the line where it says write in Nick Card. And, I appreciate all of your votes. The reason why I'm running as a write-in part, is because we can't afford to wait anymore as Oregon. That's what I was originally thinking when I came back here. I can do it next time. I can be active in the Valley in other ways. And there's a great way to, support and volunteer in grassroots, but no one's running here. And I had to throw my hat in the ring because it's what we need to do. It's what we need to do for my friends. It's what we need to do for Oregonians. We need to get Oregonians back to work, and we need to get the Oregonians that have left Oregon because there's no jobs back here working and raising families.
Well, exactly. And you're going to be running against incumbent State Representative Peter Buckley. And, he's been in for a number of years. And, it's really, he has done some great things, and he's done some good things, but then you look at it and you go, wow, okay, there's been some things that they've missed. The Democrat Party and the vote party line, and they've got some things where they have worked bipartisanship, and then they've got some things that have simply been slam dunked through. And, some of the other state representatives and, senators on the Republican side say, we just didn't feel represented because it didn't matter what we said or did. The Democrats who were in power of the state Senate and the House of Representatives and the governor's, office, they're just going to do whatever they do. And that leaves the other half of Oregonians without representation.
Yeah. Well, and something that really bothers me in particular about, our legislature right now is there's no leadership on the jobs issue. Where's our jobs bill? Where's that advocacy? And that's what's sad. Jobs are not a Democrat versus Republican issue.
That's my
Jobs
point.
are an Oregonian issue. And that's where, I'm coming from is like you said, Peter Buckley has done some great things for education, but we need advocacy for jobs. We need leadership on the jobs issue. Because if we're not employed, then we can't raise families. That means our kids don't graduate from high school. And that means we're not going to be successful. We're not going to be successful as a community. We're not going to be successful as a region. And we're not going to be successful as a state. Jobs come first.
And I had, we've got a break coming up, but I had families that I knew that the husband or the wife lost their job for one reason or another, and now all of a sudden the double income's down to one income, and they hang on as long as they can, thinking to replace that job. They can't replace that job. They end up moving away. So it's been really nuts, and we had the legislators during that 33-day session. We scrambled to get as many legislators on the show as we could. And we kept asking, where are the jobs bills? And they were doing everything else but. So, anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Nick Card in the studio with us this morning. He's running for Oregon State Representative District 5. We'll come right back. More on the Sunrise Show. We're just getting warmed up. Hope you can stay tuned.
Sunrise will return in a moment on KCMX News Talk 880. little bold, and extremely fun. Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. on KCMX AM 880. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes. Here's Craig.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. 19 minutes after the hour. Glad you're with us this morning. We got Nick Card in the studio this morning, and Nick is running for Oregon State Representative District 5. And if you're not in District 5, then your ballot will not reflect that. I'm in District 6, and it reflects Sal Esquivel. And then, of course, you can write in. So what you'll have, and Nick, talking about this ballot situation, is what folks will see if they're in District 5 for Oregon State Representative is, would it be two blanks or one blank?
It'll be one blank. You'll see State Representative, District 5. If you're in District 5, that's what you'll see on your ballot. And there's going to be no names there. There's going to be one bubble, and there's going to be one blank line. And so what I'm asking everybody in District 5 to do is on that blank line, write in Nick Card. Fill in the bubble, write in the name. I appreciate your votes.
Yeah, where's the split? I'm trying to think. I saw the map, but I haven't seen it recently. District 5, Moore, Ashland, and it splits right in Jackson County there somewhere. I don't know if it's Talent or...
District 5 is Jacksonville, Phoenix, Ashland, and Talent.
Okay.
And just a little bit of Southwest Medford.
Okay.
But for the most part, Medford is District 6. Sal Esquivel is representative, great guy. And then south of that is District 5, where I'm running.
Well, you've got time. I mean, just a matter of, and by law, one vote gets you on. Just a matter of if there's a few others that want to run, then you've got to just win by majority.
Yeah, the guy with the most votes wins. And, you know, I'm looking to get as many votes as possible. The more votes that we can get, the bigger the grassroots support that we can create for this movement, for jobs, then, you know, that's going to send a message that we're ready. We're tired of not being heard on the jobs.
Good deal, good deal. And, Nick, you don't really have the website, I mean, the electnickcard.com, but mostly right now on Facebook. And we've got a call coming in.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, let's grab that. Good morning. You're live on the Sunrise Show. Who's this?
Good morning, Craig. Good morning, Mr. Card. This is Dwayne.
Hey, good deal. Do you have a question for Nick?
A very simple question. It's easy to say that we need more jobs in the Valley, but how do we get them?
How do we get them? Okay, so...
I'm interested in his suggestions along that regard.
Yeah, so from a politician's standpoint,
Right.
I would think it would be sponsoring some kind of jobs bill, but Nick, that's your...
Well, I think one of the biggest things that we need to look at, it's a great question, by the way, is how do we get the jobs, right? The way I propose to do it is a multi-year tax holiday for high-tech startups that are bringing those high-tech jobs to the Valley.
So tax relief and some...
Tax relief.
And then maybe, what, are you saying a scale that scales back as they get ingrained into the community?
As they grow, I mean, on the particular details, that's something that, you know, we'd have to work through and look at and see sort of other states and countries are doing different sort of programs here. But the point is Oregon has the highest middle-class income tax in the country. And, in fact, our income taxes are high across the board. We have the third highest top bracket income tax in the country.
Well,
and
can I interrupt
Oh,
you
yeah.
a minute? How do we get the trained people to fulfill those high-tech jobs? Do we set up programs like RCC's attempting to do to qualify people for a local market, or what?
Well, I don't think our problem is trained people. I mean, we have 3 great universities within 3 hours of Southern Oregon. We have RCC right here in the Valley and Southern Oregon University right here in the Valley. But when these kids graduate OIT, they can't stay here to work. They have to go somewhere else. So, and also, we have, I think, one of the most beautiful regions here in the country. So if we can get employers to come here, I don't think it's an issue of lacking an educated workforce. But, you know, obviously we need to do better at education as well.
Well, I'm going to say a contrary argument, because as we listen to people involved in employing others, one of the problems that they're faced with is adequately trained people to fill the jobs they have available or will have available.
You know, I would say that's an issue of a general issue that faces the Valley, because when you have guys, like OIT, I have some friends who went to OIT, and
Right.
when they were looking for jobs, the employers that were showing up at OIT that were trying to recruit, when they're sending out their resumes, the issue was they couldn't find jobs that would pay them enough compared to what they could go if they went and worked in Silicon Valley or in Portland or in other large tech centers around the country. And it's in part because I think we lack that sort of high technology, high dollar jobs that you see in other centers. Like Denver is a great example. It's an area that's attracted a lot of high-tech employers. It's a very beautiful area. It's got a lot of recreation. But something that Denver has going for it that we don't is Denver and Colorado has a much more favorable tax climate for businesses.
Yeah, and if I could be facetious, they now have marijuana available to anybody that wants it. But that's
Oh, I know it. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and here's the next thing. I mean, it is a challenge. We had talked to John Lee with Foley and Partners. He's a software engineer, and he said you just can't just flip a switch and have those folks. You've got to import them in because they've spent years of training. And Nick, you've got training in IT and things, right?
Yeah.
And so it takes someone with a degree, but also someone that wants that quality of life. And I think we've got that here to offer. And I think people are looking. Just a matter of getting the word out.
No, that's exactly right. There's no impetus. Like there are jobs. I guarantee you, there are high-tech jobs available in every single community around the country. But the
That's
problem
true.
is, if I'm going to graduate and I've got a degree, where am I going to look? I'm not going to go look at little old Southern Oregon because who's there unless I came from that area? I'm going to look at Denver. I'm going to look at Portland. I'm going to look at Silicon Valley. And I don't think it's past us to be able to create that same kind of an environment here. But we need to recognize our shortcomings, and I think that's why doing a tax holiday program, being able to get rid of state taxes, local taxes, property taxes, income taxes, created an opportunity where these guys that are coming up, starting new companies, investing in the community, they're risking their entire livelihoods to do this stuff.
Right.
And instead of throwing taxes on top of them, let's step back and give them the competitive edge here in Oregon.
Then we can take a look at that gentleman that was announced in the paper the other day. I don't remember all the details about setting aside properties out there for exactly the area that you're talking about, introducing new high-tech companies.
Yeah,
to
that's
the valley.
Mark Van Hawley. We're going to have him on the
Right.
program talking about that industrial park out there. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's
Okay,
good.
well, I'll bow out. You
Okay. All right.
Alrighty.
Dwayne,
Thank
thanks for the
you.
call.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
It is a challenge, and this is why I stay on this timber industry so radically, because we know that is a living wage job, and you can take, it's manpower. Sorry, ladies, it's manpower, but you can get out into the woods, and through a basic amount of training, you're handling large equipment, right, heavy equipment, and you're in an industry where you can now take this product to market, and those are living wage jobs. So it's a matter of now of getting that plugged in, because I see this, Nick, as we've gotten ourselves so backed into a corner, so desperate. Desperate people will do desperate things. I mean, it's just nuts to see the economic failures, if you would, of our region.
Oh, yeah. And, something else, too, that I like to look at, or I guess not like to look at, but just makes me sad when I see is, those economic failures tie directly into the quality of education we can provide our kids. You look at the graduation rate in Oregon. We have the second worst graduation rate in the country. And when you look at why kids graduate, do they come from a low-income household or a high-income household? And that makes a big difference to the quality of education these kids get, and whether or not they're actually going to go on and graduate. And so when we don't stand up and fight for living wage jobs, we don't stand up and fight for high-income jobs, we also are not standing up and fighting for, our kids getting a good education and graduating. And it hurts the families, it hurts community. It's really a sad thing to see no leadership on those issues.
Well, when we talk about the lack of leadership in everywhere you look, I mean, whether it's in the family, lack of leadership, in the neighborhood, lack of leadership, in businesses, people are, and it's so, having young leaders such as yourself stepping up and saying, you know, I don't have all the answers, but we're going to dig until we find them. That's admirable. So hats off to you, sir,
Well, thank you.
for stepping up. And South Medford valedictorian Nick Card going for Oregon State Representative District 5. And so, Nick, thanks so much for coming in this morning. Let's see. So electnickcard.com is the website.
Yeah,
but
you go to electnickcard.com. It'll take you to the Facebook page, or you can go direct facebook.com/electnickcard. And got a little information on the campaign. If you're interested in volunteering, you want to take a yard sign, let me know on the Facebook page and get the word out. You know, together we can bring jobs back to Southern Oregon. I know we can do it, and I know that it just takes a little bit of leadership to get it done.
Very good, very good. Well, Nick, I'm glad you had time to come in and off to your day job, right?
Yeah.
So, good deal. All right, more on the Sunrise Show. We'll be back after this quick little break. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate
You bet.
having me on.
Nick, thanks for coming in. Back after this.
Well, I'm mad about it, baby. Please don't hurt me no more.
Stay tuned. Sunrise will return in a moment on KCMX News Talk 880. A little bold and extremely fun. It's Sunrise with Craig Froelich right here on KCMX AM 880. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes. We want to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or go to kcmxam.com. Join in the conversation by calling 541-772-8255. Sunrise, where it matters what you think.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back, and welcome to the Sunrise Show. 7 minutes after the hour. Glad you are with us this morning. Hope your day is going well. 50 degrees outside. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous morning. I wish I didn't have to work, but I'm glad I'm with you. I'm glad I'm here keeping you out of trouble or not instigating any trouble, especially because we've got law enforcement in the office, ladies and gentlemen. Deputy Chief Corey Falls is in the studio with me this morning, and he's running for Jackson County Sheriff. And there's 3 candidates, and we've had them all in this week, and Deputy Chief Corey Falls is the last one. So I'm glad you're with us this morning, and good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, Craig. Thanks for having me this morning.
You bet, you bet. So big race. You've never really run for office before. So, I mean, you're a law enforcement guy. How many years? 19 years?
16.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go. Yeah. And so, you know, you've been to all the forums and everything. So here's a chance to talk to the folks and kind of Q&A on things. If you want to get questions in, ladies and gentlemen, get them into Craig@radiomedford.com. We'll take questions at the end of the hour related to, I guess I'll just call you Corey.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Corey
yeah.
works for me this
All
morning.
right. Well, we got that out, and for all the folks that love Ashland, the police department,
Sure.
You've got Deputy Chief in, so watch out. Well, running for sheriff, how did you get that idea? I mean, you're Deputy Chief down in Ashland, and
Sure.
Ashland Police Department, and Chief Terry Holderness is down there, good group of guys down
Yes.
there, and then all of a sudden, running for sheriff. What's up with that?
Guys like me like these types of challenges, that's for sure. And I've built a strong foundation in my career to prepare me for a run like this. And I knew it was going to be a tough task, but it's certainly the challenge that I want and the one I've looked forward to. And it's time for something different, and that's what I bring to the table.
Gotcha. Well, because it's just the sheriff. Obviously, the sheriff's office is incredibly diverse. I mean, it's 2,800 square miles.
Mm-hmm.
200,000 people, that you're responsible for, and pretty interesting. And of course, going out of the Sunday article in the Tribune, the quote right out of it says, I would like those resources to stay here, talking about the budget of the sheriff's office
Right.
and things like that, and talking about how Sheriff Winters has spent his money with whether it's equipment or personnel or any of things like that, and how the sheriff has used his resources. And you say, I would like those resources to stay here. You can't continue to leave your jurisdiction to fight drug problems in other areas. So you feel pretty strongly that has there been misuse of funds, you think?
I think so. I would spend money differently. And there's a lot of problems in Jackson County. And we've spoken a lot about resources outside the county and the helicopter. That's just a piece of the puzzle. We have sent helicopters out of the county and SWAT teams. We have supervisors in Jackson County Sheriff's Office that aren't supervising anybody. There's the sheriff just hired an assistant to help him do his job. There's a public information officer that is in the county. I see those positions with the problems we had. I would rather have a child abuse detective. I would rather have an accreditation manager to get us up to standards. I would rather have more people on patrol for some of those positions.
Wow. So maybe just move some of the. I mean, from what sheriff said yesterday, he had cut, 11 admin positions in order not to lay off deputies and to stay within budget. So he's not top heavy, I don't think.
Well,
But you're saying that the PIO would move that into a detective position?
Different positions, and the other interesting thing about that also is when we're talking about funds, we spent $1 million, the sheriff has, last year in putting in this backup dispatch center to support the Shady Cove system. He's spending $1 million on that out of a capital budget when he's threatening 66 deputies with their jobs. That just doesn't make any sense to me. And that those, the sheriff will say these are all different funds where I can't use money here or there. I understand budget. I understand the Oregon budget law, and there's things that we can do with that money to use it for our county.
Yeah. It's interesting. I talked with the sheriff yesterday about the whole union issue and that 66 deputy layoff notices, but he didn't have to. He didn't lay anybody off. But the vote was interesting, and you got 29% out of the 100. I mean, it's in the article that came out Sunday, of the 130 members, 100 were present, and of those 100 members, you got 29 votes, or 29 folks voted for you.
Right.
And then 52% for, Lieutenant Bob Sergi, and then but then there was 15 votes that mysteriously didn't vote.
Right.
And I was interested about that because that could have easily, it could have gone anywhere.
Could have gone anywhere.
Yeah, and you wonder, okay, what were those 15 folks thinking if they were maybe coming to a union vote session? Maybe they just didn't feel comfortable with any of the candidates, or maybe they didn't want to get involved. I don't know. It's odd to me that if you're there in the union and you're standing up for what you're believing in, you wouldn't vote.
Well,
I've never been in that situation, so I don't know.
Actually, there's more than that. If you actually look at the numbers, out of 130 people, 100 people showed up. There's also 30 people that did. There's more that did not.
Yeah,
vote.
There's the 30 that didn't show. So we've got 30 plus 15. There's 45 people that didn't cast a vote, and I know that in a lot of voting sequences, you lose 10 to 20%, but still, 45 votes out of 130, that's a lot.
That is a lot. And I've been through a sheriff's race when I worked up in Snohomish County. I understand where a lot of deputies feel. I think within the sheriff's office right now, people are scared. They're intimidated.
Yeah, and what's weird? I was asking about that, and here's something, and I thought about this later. This makes it very difficult for anyone. I mean, you could win and be in the sheriff's position. Is the Jackson County Sheriff's Employee Association, that is a union.
Right.
And the sheriff is not involved in that. And so now the sheriff, even though he's the steward of the budget, the increase and the arbitration went from the county to the association, but yet you've got this little tussle of employee versus employer. Right. And the sheriff's kind of the focus point of that. That doesn't seem healthy in an overall situation. That the union, if they want something and the sheriff says, or the county says, I don't have the money, and the the employees union says we want it anyway, that puts it at odds.
Right.
And so now it's like if the sheriff doesn't, quote unquote, go to bat for us, he's bad with the county as well. So now all of a sudden it's the sheriff's thrown into the county situation, and it's against your own employees. Does that follow? Does that make sense?
Well, this goes much deeper than just money. There's certainly a history. I've been on contract negotiations. I've done contract negotiations with our sworn and our non-sworn. Contract negotiations are tough, and if you have a culture in your organization where you are working with your association members over several years, and you're making them part of the problem and part of the solution, then you can make a lot more grounds to where when you get into contract negotiations, it seems like you always end up on money, but really there's a relationship piece there that's not in the sheriff's office right now.
Interesting, because I was asking Sheriff Winters about this, and he said, well, the arbitration, he said, what's happened is as the union contract, every time it renews,
Sure,
they go for an increase.
Right.
And this was the first time that they didn't get that increase.
Right.
And then, of course, what Sheriff was saying is because they couldn't get the negotiations done all these months, he, under union law, had to issue those layoff notices. He had no choice because it's with law within the union contract. If they had negotiated 6 months earlier, he never would have given the layoff notices. And so, is that right?
I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. And this could have been resolved much sooner. And yeah, I agree. Once you get to a point where this is the first time they weren't given a raise or whatever.
I don't know what monies that was.
Yeah, I don't know if that is or is not. People get into these situations from a breakdown of relationships.
Oh, yeah.
Prior to even going into contract negotiations.
Yeah.
That is the biggest issue in the sheriff's office right now. They've lost that trust of their leader. They've lost that trust of the administration, and there was a breakdown because whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're in business, whatever, a lot of times it comes down to money is where the respect is. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And if you have those relationships that you've worked with your organizations prior to these money issues coming up, you're in a much better state. And that's how come we've been able to successfully do contract negotiations in our organizations. But yeah. I don't think that's correct.
Well, I want to ask you about that. And here's the next thing. It is a trend across the nation. The art of negotiation has been lost.
Absolutely.
And there's loss of respect, short fuse. I mean, it's every model, and this is another one. I mean, the Medford School District had a problem with that. Anyway, I want to bring, let's come right back. Quick little break. Deputy Chief Corey Falls in the studio this morning, running for Jackson County Sheriff. We'll be back after this.
Stay tuned. Sunrise will return in a moment on KCMX News Talk 880. A little bold and extremely fun, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. on KCMX AM 880. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes. Here's Craig.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. 21 minutes after the hour, 52 degrees. Boy, it's going up fast. Wow. Well, we have Deputy Chief Corey Falls in this morning, and continuing with our debate series this week and next week as well. Just want to have all the candidates in, Jackson County Sheriff, to get the information out to the listeners. And Corey, we're continuing with that. And I was hanging on to this union vote that came out because it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I was kind of saying it looked like to me that because of the union related to the sheriffs, the deputies, and the employees, that it immediately puts the sheriff at odds with his folks, like it would put the Medford school superintendent along, the administration versus the teachers in the school district. And if they have any type of raise or renegotiation, and they do this every couple of years, that it's like they're going to want more than the organization can give them, and there's that difference of philosophy. Well, you should give us this, and the administration says, sorry, we can't give you that, and then they negotiate. Well, then they can't negotiate and get everything done for 8 months or a year or whatever. There's that tussle, and at the end, there's just finger pointing and bad guy, and that's kind of what I'm seeing with this. And you're saying that if Sheriff Winters had more leadership or whatever, but he can't always approve increased budget, right?
No, well, I guess what I'm getting at, I've been in associations, I've been in unions, I've been through a sheriff's race as a union member, and the breakdown happens.
Okay, so you were a sheriff's deputy up in
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
and so you went through this. Okay.
Yes. So the breakdown happens far before you enter into contract negotiations, and that's where I'm saying the breakdown happens, and it comes down to leadership, and it comes down to making your association members feel part of the organization. It's not about buying them stuff and hey, giving them all this stuff and saying, hey, you have all this stuff, you should be happy with your job. It's about involving them in the organization, with the decisions, open communication with your people in your organization to get there. Once you get to the contract negotiation, yeah, and sometimes it is going to come down to money or this and that. If you've built that trust within your organization and you have some skills in negotiations, things are going to go much better. But there's not that trust going into the...
Yeah. It was interesting, and it just looks like whoever would be sheriff would be very difficult, because here's where the difference is going to be. At some point, the sheriff's going to have to make those tough decisions, especially when the budgets are shrinking.
Sure.
And that's where, desperate times will take desperate measures, and so you cut back, and at some point, the administration, whether, the undersheriff
Right.
or the other officers, those kind of things, as the leadership makes that decision, the obviously deputies, they're going to see their own way.
Well,
that would be that.
Here's the confusion in that, and it's a lack of communication. The sheriff doesn't communicate with his people. When you have...
So they don't understand.
They
so
don't
that's-
understand.
Okay.
When you have deputies that see the sheriff spending $1 million on a system that he doesn't talk to them about, and that money can't be spent on salaries, but the sheriff doesn't tell them that. They just see he's spending $1 million. They see the sheriff just hiring people that are his friends, bringing people all of a sudden like, who's this guy in the organization? Oh, the sheriff just hired him. They see things like that. They see SWAT teams and helicopters going out of county, and there's money to do all these things, whether it's federal reimbursement or forfeit seizure. It doesn't matter, because you have to talk to your employees and explain to them where this money is coming. That's not happening. That level of communication is not happening. They see money being spent, and they don't understand why they don't get a piece of the pie.
Oh, gotcha. But they still have, here's the next part that was kind of interesting to me, related to where we are as a county.
Yes.
To the other counties, and you look right across the county line, less than 30 miles away, and you've got the Josephine County Sheriff's Office. They are decimated.
Right.
And you go another county over, Douglas County, Curry County, Siskiyou County.
Right.
From what Sheriff Winters told us, he said Siskiyou County is using our old patrol cars. And I was thinking to myself, well, wait a minute, with all the gear related to law enforcement, this would be a pretty good place to work, related to having the essentials and the fact that knowing you're being supported with the Marine Division, the SWAT team, just the everyday workings of law enforcement, all the different, patrol division, detectives, all that kind of stuff. So I get both sides, but I'm wondering if they're not happy, they could leave, right?
Absolutely.
And then but it's just a matter of...
That's not a way to solve
No, but
any time of issues in your organization. If you're not happy, leave. And it comes down to managing resources within our county. You can point to a lot of stuff the sheriff's office has.
Right.
You can. And you just named a lot of stuff. They do.
And
They
that's
got
a short
all kinds of
list.
stuff. But what have we accomplished with that stuff? In 2012, there's over 500 child abuse cases, founded child abuse cases in Jackson County.
Oh, right. The
jail.
The crime is
The
crazy.
jail has been inadequately staffed and it's been too small for the whole time the sheriff's been the sheriff. The crime is increasing. Our drug problem is increasing. We have mental health issues. So what are we accomplishing with all that stuff?
Oh, I know, and this is the part, and Corey, we were talking about this before we went on air about, when the budgets are smaller and getting squeezed, everyone's feeling it. The libraries, the OSU Extension Service, all of this is going on, and you go, okay, ladies and gentlemen, where is the money gone? Well, the ONC lands, 53% of the state of Oregon is controlled and managed by the federal government. Let's have our lands back so we can harvest that timber and bring money and funding back into the counties. And there's 18 of these ONC counties, and we obviously didn't scream loud enough.
Right.
And when we had Commissioner Doug Brideville, he said $19 million. So,
Yes.
That's out of the yearly budget. So everybody gets less of the pie, and it's harder to work or do more with less.
It is.
But I get what you're saying about...
When I have to tighten my belt, my focus is going to be on corrections deputies and detectives and patrol officers that can be first responders to crimes and to handle our crime and our problem. Not other positions that aren't first responders.
Yeah. We've got a break coming up. We've got a call coming in. Should we take that call?
Sure, yeah.
Let's see. We've got... Good morning. You're live on the Sunrise Show. Who's this?
Hey, David.
Yes, sir. Do you have a question for Deputy Chief Corey Falls?
Yeah, I do, and I'll preface it by saying that I appreciate Deputy Falls. I haven't made up my mind in the sheriff's race yet. There's only one person I won't vote for, and that's the Sergi. So, anyways, but my question is, I'm basically deciding between Corey Falls and Mike Winters. So the question I have is, when you say we haven't done enough, I would compare the sheriff's office right now to the Medford Police Station. The Medford Police, it seems like their first way to deal with a problem, any problem, whether it's a teen with a knife or people in their car, the first solution is to shoot them. So when you say that the current sheriff's department hasn't done enough, I guess the question I have is, what do you mean? Because I know the sheriff's, to my best of my knowledge, the sheriff's last use of lethal force, it was about 3 years ago when a man stood up with an assault rifle in a marijuana patch. I could be wrong.
Hey,
I don't know of any
David,
other shootings since then. But
David, we got a break. Hold that thought. We got a break coming up. We'll be right back.
Okay, I'll stay.
Stay tuned. Sunrise will return in a moment on KCMX News Talk 880. We want to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or go to kcmxam.com and go to the Talk to Us tab. Send us your thoughts. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes.
Yeah, if you could just comment on it, that'd be great.
I got a mojo too. I got the John the Conqueror. I'm gonna mess with you. I'm gonna make you girls leave me by my hand, and then the world will know the hoochie coochie man, 'cause you know I'm here.
That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Great classic Eric Clapton, Hoochie Coochie Man. And we've got David on the phone. We're continuing with Deputy Chief Corey Falls in the studio this morning and having a good dialogue. We had a caller just at the break. And David, you had a question about the crime, right? And for Corey Falls. So tell us that question for Deputy Chief Corey Falls.
Okay, okay. What I'm trying to get at is that I'm in choosing between the two very reasonable people running for sheriff, Mike Winters and Corey Falls. And I actually live in Ashland. I've had only one run-in with the Ashland police, but it was fairly decent as far as I was concerned. So the question I have is, just trying to find problems with the department right now, the department that doesn't, have to use firearms on people as much as the Medford agency, and the agency that stays it's in their budget right now. So I guess I'm trying to find out what the real problem is that Mike Winters is currently guilty of, basically, that makes him worthy of replacement, and how we could preemptively stop child abuse, since that's just one particular thing you mentioned.
I'm
interested in hearing your comments.
I understand what you're saying, David, and what I've been talking about this morning, just allocation of resources. I agree with you. We can't preemptively stop child abuse cases, but we can certainly have the adequate staffing and detectives for when it happens that we investigate those crimes. And that would be more of a priority for me. Right now, I see the sheriff's office using They only have one or two investigators that can do child abuse, and we need to have more when there's other positions out there that I see would be a good child abuse detective instead of another position. That's all I was saying this morning. Just a difference in allocation of resources of what I would do and what the current sheriff is doing.
Does that make sense? Yeah. As far as so
Yeah.
preemptive, there isn't anything on crime, but just being ready
Okay,
for
well,
it.
that's good. That's good. So I guess one thing I would say, I live in Ashland. I think the police department does a really professional job. They're definitely less militant than a lot of agencies, and they are very clean-cut and nice people. So the one thing I would say, Corey Falls, is that I appreciate, seeing you in the race, and I would just say if Mike Winters does win, I think it would be, all I really care about is that this guy Sergi doesn't win, because he's just, he's just out there. He's a militant, the guy has issues. There's a reason he is where he is in his career. But I would say that if the race doesn't go the way you want it, Mr. Falls, maybe you could work at a professional level at the sheriff's department, because I definitely think that some professional, input would be good there. So that's all I can say, and
Okay.
good luck.
Well, great. David, thanks for your call. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right. Well, good dialogue there. Corey, continuing with that and going off of this Sunday article, because we talked about the labor and talked about that kind of vote, but you mentioned upping training opportunities within the sheriff's office. Is that expensive, though? So it's expensive, but yet the payback. So you're saying, like I talk about a lot of an ounce of a prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Right.
And do you see areas where the sheriff's office isn't trained?
Absolutely. I would like to see them become an accredited agency and have their policies and procedures.
Yeah, I saw that about that accreditation. Yeah. What is that?
Just a state accreditation, and basically it's just having
Oregon Accreditation Alliance.
Yeah. And there's professional policies and procedures out there. Most of the Valley has gone to them. It's a company called Lexipol, Medford, Ashland, and what it is, it's a standard policies and procedures that fit your organization. And what this does also is it brings free training. So you can do, every day our officers do 6-minute trainers on all our policies. So it adds, not only does it make your organization more professional because you have standards that are constantly updated per Oregon law, per the Constitution, or federal law. This company automatically does that for you, but your officers can train daily, not only on your policies and procedures, but on situations.
So once you buy into this accreditation alliance, they provide ongoing training?
The company of Lexipol does.
Lexipol,
and Lexipol is, it makes it much easier. When you have a system like Lexipol, it makes it much easier to get accredited. And accreditation, we've disagreed, the three candidates have disagreed with this because I feel it's important. The sheriff and Lieutenant Sergi don't, because they think it's too time consuming. This is something that comes up every 3 years. If you have the policies and procedures in place, then it's not real time consuming to do it every 3 years.
So you rotate everything in.
Yes. Yes.
Well, and here's the next thing is there's so much going on within the sheriff's office. You could pick at each different level and but then you wonder, okay, budget-wise, is there going to be enough? This is crazy because you think about the libraries. Nobody back in the day when the libraries were being built ever dreamed of the fact that there wouldn't be funding for staffing.
Sure.
That never even occurred to anybody. So to all of a sudden, and the same thing happened in Josephine County. They passed a levy for the jail. They put the jail up there. It's paid for, and now they can't staff it. And you're scratching your head going, okay, what happened here?
Right.
And that was that long-term planning that the legislators talk about, that there is none.
Yeah.
And it's tough. So, well, listen, Corey, you were also just endorsed by the Medford Mail Tribune in their editorial, and really just said, Sheriff Mike Winters has had 12 years. That's too much, or enough. You wonder if that reward for 12 years of a good job or not should let him go on, or just, they're saying fresh new blood is what they're saying.
Yeah.
The grass is greener on the other side of the fence.
I don't know. Here's my thought on, because we're talking about budgets and resources, and there's
Right.
a lot of limitations, and it's not just Jackson County. We point out other counties. It's not just Oregon. It's across the country.
Yeah.
There are professional policing strategies out there to work with resources, to work with budget. I've been all around the country. Talking to other commanders about best practices. What are your problems? What do you do to fix these problems? And there's command colleges that you can really get out to and learn about things. In addition, I've built a foundation of a strong education level to problem solve. There's the answers within the sheriff's office, I believe, to fix some of these problems. But when you don't have the leadership to open up the doors to allow that to develop,
Yeah.
then you're in the situation you're in right now with our sheriff's office. The only reason we have a national program on sexual assault in the Ashland Police Department. The only reason that we have that is because we had a young detective that says, I think we need to do things differently. We said, what do you need to do your job? And we got out of her way. That's the type of leadership that we need in Jackson County right now. Our sheriff doesn't do that, and we can solve a lot more of these problems working collectively. And I have some, just from my time around the country and working in other places, there's some things that we can do.
Well, and I know that it's so difficult, and I'm sitting here thinking as you're saying this, and I'm thinking as our region
Sure.
in law enforcement, they're just being devastated. I'm not seeing any other stronghold that I can think of, except maybe L.A. County with the L.A. Sheriff's Office, that would be that type of stronghold related to law enforcement that people could count on, that they can utilize as an anchor point.
Right.
I mean, I'm seeing less Oregon State troopers. Now we've got Washington and Colorado. They're just like drinking out of a fire hose
Right.
related to this recreational marijuana issue, and crime is up everywhere. Look at Chicago.
Sure.
They've got the toughest gun laws in the country, and they had 45 shootings on Easter weekend. They had 27 shootings this last weekend, and you're thinking to yourself, wait a minute, that's not could it be leadership? I mean, what's happening? And the sheriff talked about it's a societal problem, and the crime is just, it's like oozing out of the cracks.
Sure.
And there's nothing you can do. So now it's a matter of beating it back, but having the infrastructure, and then, like you said, having the leadership. And I talk about this on the show all the time. There's lack of leadership in just about every aspect. Companies, and they don't have the confidence. And then I'm finding that there are leaders, and they don't want to come forward because the task is either too great, they're going to challenge their family or their business or themselves personally, and they're just kind of going, I just can't win.
Right. Well, I'll tell you the difference between the sheriff and I and what I would bring. There's professional policing strategies that you can implement. It's not going to solve every problem, but
Right.
it's a step in the right direction. The sheriff doesn't do those types of things. I think it's time that we start looking at some professional policing strategies, some data-driven strategies, some morning policing. There's professional strategies that are out there that are models to work with these problems. The sheriff is into buying stuff and saying, "Here's your stuff." And
Yeah. Well, you talked about resources, and I meant to ask you about this because you acknowledged the mutual aid agreements, and this comes with building relationships with all the other counties.
Sure.
And having a good working relationship. And so the fact that we or the sheriff has built these relationships, I mean, far and wide. I asked him yesterday, I said, how far does this go? And he said, everyone I've talked to, we've built a relationship with.
Right.
And so that's a good thing. And it's right. I mean, we've got this basis now, and I'm just wondering, related to the leadership piece and the resources going into Jackson County. Of course, we know that the mutual aid agreements allows the other counties to pay for our equipment going into their county.
If you bill them.
If you bill them, okay. But if they come into our county or we need their help, it's a back and forth. We don't bill them, they don't bill us. Would that be?
Here's my thought on the regionalization with what we're doing, because I think regionalization is a good thing.
You're right.
I do.
So we've got our toe in the water, is what I was
Right.
getting at. Yeah.
Here's where I disagree with the sheriffs. When we talk about regionalization, and I worked for Snohomish County Sheriff's Office, over 650,000 people. in that county. A regional drug task force that I worked with.
And how many deputies in their department?
We had 275 sworn,
Okay.
and that's not counting corrections.
Okay.
So probably 500. So when you talk about regionalization is using your resources to help others, and they use their resources to help you, and you go back and forth. I understand that concept. It works really well. What's happening in Jackson County, because no other counties around us have resources.
So it's being siphoned off. Is that
Yes.
kind of what you're saying?
So when the sheriff talks about regionalization here, what that means is it's Jackson County stuff going everywhere else.
But not coming back.
But not coming back. And we're not, when our stuff goes other, we're not charging Josephine County for the helicopter time. So
yeah, the weird thing
I don't
is,
agree with that.
what do you do if the other counties don't have anything? And it's kind of like the grows.
I know how to answer that.
Okay.
It's not the sheriff of Jackson County to fix the problem in Josephine County. If other counties don't have anything, then that's certainly the task of the governor, the sheriff of that county, and the state resources to come in. I would certainly assist other counties. It's not my job as the Jackson County Sheriff to solve other counties that are faltering the problem.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of that's come from search and rescue and things like that.
Search and rescue is good.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, we have a quick little break.
Okay.
We've got Corey Falls in the studio with us this morning, continuing on the debate series here on KCMX. Glad you're hanging out with us. We'll be right back after this short 1-minute break.
That you see, I got $700. Don't you mess with me, 'cause you know I'm here.
Stay tuned. Sunrise will return in a moment on KCMX News Talk 880. A little bold and extremely fun, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. on KCMX AM 880. Lively conversations around news, politics, and people, plus local news and weather every 30 minutes. Here's Craig.
Do, honey, lay off of my shoes and don't you step on my blue suede shoe. Well, you can do anything but lay over my blue suede shoes. Rock it.
Good morning and welcome back, everybody. 48 minutes after the hour, 54 degrees. Classic Elvis. Jeez, way back in the day. We've got continuing and finishing up with Deputy Chief Corey Falls and his website, CoreyFallsForSheriff.com. It's Corey, C-O-R-E-Y, Falls, the number 4, Sheriff.com. So CoreyFallsForSheriff.com if you want to check out the website there. And we're continuing. And, you know, Corey, related to what's happening in the county, it's so difficult. It is a difficult thing for everyone, it seems like, because the crime numbers are jumping through the roof. I think when we had Chief Jim Georgian from Medford Police Department, he was talking 300%.
Yeah.
I mean, these are ugly, ugly numbers coming from Josephine County, and that's just one category of bad crime. But there's everything, and they're having to go over. I mean, everyone is having to go to these other counties, grab the bad guys, and come back.
Sure.
So we do have a call coming in. Should we take that?
Yeah.
All right, let's grab this call this morning. Good morning. You're live on the Sunrise Show. Hello.
Yes, hello. You're on commercial now. Can I talk to the man, what's his name there, who's running for sheriff, please?
Yes, go right ahead, sir.
Okay. What is his name? I'm not very good with names.
No, that's okay. It's Corey Falls.
Corey Falls. Okay, I'd like to ask him a question.
Go ahead, sir.
I know around the country there's a movement going on where the sheriffs are becoming more constitutional or understanding these things. And I want to know if he's aware of the Supreme Court case, the very first one called Mulberry versus Madison. Is he familiar with that?
No, not off the top of my head.
That's way back. That's way back.
Oh, yeah, it's the very first one. But what this case was is that they said, the Supreme Court said, that if something is unconstitutional, you do not have to wait for the Supreme Court or another court to clarify it.
Okay.
You have to go by your oath of office that you take, and your understanding if something is constitutional or not. You're supposed to abide by it, because there's no law saying that if something's unconstitutional, there's no law that you have to go with it. Now, here's a case in point. The United Nations and the Agenda 21, there's a militarization of all the police forces in our country, and they're getting more and more militant. So pretty soon it's getting so bad that the SWAT team is going to come out to give you a traffic citation, okay? So, like, the people are upset about this, and we'd like to know how you stand on these issues. Thank you.
What was your first name again? I'm sorry?
Well, my name's Ron.
Ron. Okay, Ron. Thank you for the call. Corey, yeah, go right ahead.
I think I understand what Ron's saying. And Ron, yeah, if a SWAT team's issuing a traffic citation, then that's inappropriate and we've gone too far. I would agree with you on that. That should not happen. In terms of just the militarization of law enforcement, if you're going to use a SWAT team, there's professional standards out there. There's risk analysis. There's certainly those types of things that I would implement that justified why we use the SWAT team every time. We're seeing the militarization of law enforcement more with rifles and equipment. It's past practices where law enforcement has learned why officers have been killed, and they've wanted to equip them with more safety gear. And also, I've been in part of SWAT operations for the last, since probably 1999, so for the last 15 years probably. And SWAT tactics are slowing down. It is becoming more militarization in terms of how we look and how we're equipped. But with that, we're doing more to resolve the conflicts through surrounding residences and calling people out and making sure everybody's safe. So a lot of it is just the look. A lot of it is safety. And certainly if we are overstepping our bounds with that, then that's inappropriate. It needs to be stopped.
And then, Ron, you asked about the Constitution. Where he was on the Constitution is right, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
See, because a lot of deputies that I talk to, because I'm an outgoing person, I like to know where people stand, that they believe that the Supreme Court has to make a judgment first before they can decide if something's constitutional or not. But that's not what John Jay and the Marbury versus Madison said. They said if something is unconstitutional, you abide by that, and you don't have to wait to hear from the Supreme Court on the issue.
Right.
Example, something that is clear-cut is taking away somebody's Second Amendment rights, or for that matter, any of the Bill of Rights. If they're taking that away, we don't have to wait for a judgment on high to know that it's not ethical to do it. And I just want to make sure that you understand that, and I wish all the brothers in the sheriff and the police would understand that. Then they would have a little more confidence, I think, in what they're doing.
Well, I'll tell you, Ron, I'm sworn to uphold the Constitution. I believe the number one role of a police officer or sheriff or chief or whatever is to protect the constitutional and civil rights of citizens. So certainly if I felt anything was unconstitutional or people were overstepping their bounds or even law enforcement officials violating civil rights or whatever that, I would certainly intervene.
There you go. He wouldn't wait. He'd get after it as long as it's within the oath of office and the Constitution. So.
Okay. Well, that sounds good, sir. I wish you the best. Thank you very much.
All right, Ron. Thanks for the call this morning. All right. Yeah. No. And you've got to be kind of amazed with the sheriff and this Cliven Bundy case down in Nevada.
Sure.
And being the top cop. I mean, as far as federal, over the federal. I'm sorry. Highest ranking law enforcement in the land, in the county, representing the county, and it's recognized federally, which is quite something, to say the least. Related to Cliven Bundy, you wonder where the sheriff is on all of that. And we talked about lack of negotiations and how that's been lost.
Sure.
And this is another example of lack of negotiations on the part of us.
Right.
Pro, con, left, right, whatever it is. Folks aren't negotiating. They're just short fuse, whatever. So, Corey, in our last minute, Was there something we didn't get out this morning that you wanted to say related to voting in the sheriff's office? We've covered a lot of issues.
Yeah, we
morning.
have covered a lot. No, I would appreciate everybody to look at the 3 candidates, and if they want something different, certainly take a look at my background, the foundation I've built in law enforcement, and some of the ideas I have for the future of Jackson County. That's my goal. I want to lead Jackson County into the future and bring some of the foundation I built and the trainings that I have and the relationships that I have in law enforcement to make it better. I have a really good relationship with law enforcement in Jackson County, and would appreciate your vote.
All right, good deal. Corey Falls for sheriff. It's a Corey, Falls, and the number 4 for sheriff.com is the website. And Corey, thanks for so much for coming in this morning. Good dialogue, and we'll continue the dialogue. The ballots are being mailed today, and we've got a couple more weeks related to folks when they're turning that all in. So maybe we'll have you back on depending on what's happening. I know you're busy though.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on this morning.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming in and working with the schedule. So, all right, we'll be right back. More on the Sunrise Show after this. Stay tuned. You can always get to us, the KCMXAM.com, however that works. Back after this. Stay tuned.
Start your day off right. Catch the sunrise on KCMX AM 880. Sunrise, where it matters what you think.